Welcome to a very sunny Switzerland where we're here to drive the brand new DS Automobiles No.8. I'm Jordan and you're watching Auto Express. Right, first of all, let's get the naming out of the way because yes, it is No.8, not DS8, and that's because this is the first of DS's new cars that comes with that new naming structure. So there's no longer the DS7 or the DS5 or the DS3, it is now DS number something, kind of like a certain brand of French perfume. But anyway, what we're looking at here in terms of the DS8 specifically is a medium to large size EV that is a sort of high riding, fastback sort of car, which might sound a little bit ill-defined, but actually is a pretty common type of shape these days because it's an EV. So I'm thinking cars like the Polestar 4 and even cars like the Mercedes EQE. So first things first, let's have a look at the styling, and it is a pretty dramatic looking car. Now this version here is pretty much the top spec. So you can see we've got this sort of dual color bonnet here, which is actually painted, as well as an illuminated grille and these really dramatic lighting signatures both here at the front and at the rear. However, if you look really closely, you can see that this brand is finally starting to lean on some of those styling traits that made the original DS, and in this case also the SM, so iconic. So that sloping roofline, which is very DS, and the fact that it's got this kind of undercut here which separates all of the glasswork from the body itself. It is very striking and definitely makes quite an impression against other cars and traffic. However, this car's really interesting on the inside, so let's go have a look. Okay, look at this cabin. It is so cool. So let's start with the steering wheel. As you can see, it's slightly square shaped, but the weirdest thing about it are those X spokes. It is a little bit awkward to hold, I'm not gonna lie. And the controls on the steering wheel, which handle most of your sort of basic functions, while they are fairly easy to navigate, they do feel a little bit flimsy and plasticky, but it's really clever because look, you can see here we've got some paddles behind those spokes and they control your regenerative braking. As you can see, we've got a bit of a center console here. All of these little sort of star motifs, they all light up at night. With that is a couple of controls. So we've got a volume control and also our drive mode selector, as well as the main gear selector, which you will find borrowed from lots of slightly less expensive cars. We're talking cars like the Peugeot 2008, but here it does feel just fine. There's also here, as you can see, a wireless charging pad with a velvety base to stop the phone sliding around, as well as underneath you can see we've got a sort of covered storage section there with a couple of cup holders, as well as a very clever cup holder that sits here and doubles as a bit of a palm resty thing for just sitting there, and a center console with my phone in it, which is also cooled. You can see the screen here. This is a 17-inch wide single touchscreen that essentially acts as both the main touchscreen interface for the driver as well as the passenger. There are static climate control functions that sit on either side of the screen that is separate for the driver and the passenger, as you can see, and this here is kind of your main menu. I'm not gonna lie, the navigation system does look and feel a little bit basic. It's that sort of standard Stellantis navigation system that you'll find in pretty much everything, but that is generally going to be overridden by your phone, let's be honest. There are a few sort of physical controls, although they are touch sensitive. If we pull back a little bit, this car has the etched glass roof option, and it's so cool. You can see these sorts of like moments that change the opacity of it, and broadly speaking, this thing feels really cool. Now, back seats, I'm sat behind myself, and as you can see, there is loads of legroom. However, headroom is not brilliant. Back in the driver's seat, in front of the driver, we have a digital display, which actually has plenty of versatility and looks to sit really nicely in this sort of shelf that is sort of the main dashboard. We've got some really clever daytime running light sections here, which can all be customized. And there's also a sort of light trough here in the gap, which at night is going to sort of reflect up against this sort of brushed gold finish. Material quality is really good. Anything that it looks like leather in this interior is leather, and it feels wonderful. Look at these sort of speaker grills. Now apparently this is the high-end speaker system that is optional on most cars, but apparently very well worth it. I think we were told 16 speakers, 825 watts there or thereabouts, something like that, but impressive nonetheless. In terms of mirror, we can revert it to a camera, so that is quite a nice touch. Oh, just quickly, whilst I have you, we're in one with a different color interior. This is the Jules Verne edition. Just a quick reminder that if you're looking to buy or sell your car, you can do so through Auto Express. So make sure you click the link in the description below and we'll run you through the process. In terms of boot space, well, it's pretty vast. DS quotes 620 litres with all the seats up like you see here, with a 1.165 metre length between the back of the back seats and the loading lip, which means that it's particularly useful for long things like golf clubs and stuff like that. All right, let's run through this car's tech specs because they are actually very impressive. There are 2 battery options available, and the first front-wheel drive single motor car with the standard range battery has 73.7 kilowatt hours in terms of its capacity and a range of 355 miles, which is very impressive. Now that same single motor front-wheel drive variant is then able to be added with the long range battery, which ups the capacity right to 97.2 kilowatt hours, giving you a potential range of 466 miles, which is incredibly impressive. Right at the top of the range is the all-wheel drive long range, which is the model we've got here. It has the same 97.2 kilowatt hour battery, but the range is reduced to about 426 miles, which is a bit of a disadvantage, but it'll do 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds as opposed to just under 8, making it a much quicker car. The charging performance seems to be just as impressive. The front-wheel drive long range version can charge from 20 to 80% in 27 minutes on a 200 kilowatt charger, but apparently the real advantage is the fact that this car is able to deliver 160 kilowatts from around 20 to 55% on a very flat curve, which means that in the real world, that charging rate will be nice and snappy. Even though we've driven it on fairly smooth roads out here in a combination of Switzerland and France, the ride seems to be pretty good. Now, lots of EVs of this sort of size really do struggle to maintain their weight, and the fact that this car's got a low slung battery and a low center of gravity but a relatively high driving position does mean that it can sometimes feel a little bit floaty. This car though is really good. The steering is nice and sharp and accurate, it's quite light, overall very comfortable and easy going, and that really is kind of the whole point. And in terms of the safety tech, well, this has got pretty much everything. We've got lane positioning assist, active lane change assist, one-touch semi-automatic lane change, adaptive cruise control, anticipated speed adaptation, all of that stuff that is going to make you feel nice and secure. But the important thing is that the bits that you don't like are very easy to turn off thanks to a bunch of pretty handy shortcuts. So where does this leave us? Well, this car is a really interesting one because, look, it's a niche, and DS is in the UK still very much so a niche, but it brings together a really compelling combination of elements that we think are going to have real mass market appeal. Yes, it's not as overtly posh or as sort of obviously premium as something like a Mercedes or a BMW, but the interior really feels like $1 million. It's super comfortable, very refined, but most importantly has a really impressive range. It's also quite well priced at about £50,000, and although you do need to spend a bit to get some of these quite high-end options, overall, it's a really interesting package. Will it still make as much sense in the UK when we get to drive it over sort of rough roads and in cold weather and when we're not, you know, driving around lovely areas of Switzerland? Well, we'll have to see. But for now, we think it's a pretty interesting car and definitely worth the 4 stars that I'm going to give it.